So millions and millions of Americans all across the United States are starting to panic, and for good reason. Because just today, President Trump announced that the United States will be imposing a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico, and an additional 10% tariff on Chinese goods. This has many people worried. Businesses are already stating that they are going to increase layoffs due to the profitability of their company. In order to remain profitable, they have to eliminate certain positions. This means layoffs. This means higher unemployment. And this means a troubled economy. Now, I'm going to break all this down in just a moment, explain what this means and what we are likely to see over the next few months. Keep in mind that when this tariff imposition goes down on March 4th, well, there's going to be a lot of trouble ahead. So, I'm going to break all this down in just a moment, explain what is going on and how you will be impacted very soon. But before I do, all I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now, let's begin. So the last thing that the American people wanted to hear is that President Trump was going to move forward with this tariff on Canada and Mexico. Well, look at this. It says Trump says Mexico-Canada tariffs will start on March 4th, plus there'll be an additional 10% on China. Now, I want to read a little bit of this to you because we were told about this about a month ago. And then it was put on pause. But according to President Trump, we are still seeing too much fentanyl making its way into the United States. According to Canada, they are saying it's not coming from them because less than 1% of the fentanyl is likely coming in from Canada. Look at this. It says, President Trump says, without providing evidence, the illicit drugs are still pouring into our country from Mexico and Canada at a very high and unacceptable level, despite pledges from both U.S. neighbors to boost their efforts to police their borders. Says, we cannot allow this scourge to continue to harm the USA, and therefore, until it stops or is seriously limited, that proposed tariff scheduled to go into effect on March 4th will indeed go into effect as scheduled. Okay. Now, here's the problem. We are already seeing layoffs from businesses that are struggling, from businesses that have yet to really rebound from the pandemic and from that bout of high inflation. But we are now hearing that tariffs are going to increase the likelihood of additional inflation, meaning prices will continue to go up. And think about this for a second. If you are to buy something from China, well, most people buy it from certain stores like Amazon. Maybe they buy it from Walmart. And now those retailers are going to have to increase prices in order to continue their same profitability. Well, here's the problem. We are going to see this it's not just going to happen over the next few weeks. It's going to be for many months, if not years, until more companies decide to buy and manufacture and produce all right here in the United States. Now, here's the other thing that President Trump said. President Trump is also threatening to slap a 25% tariff on the EU. Says the bloc was always meant to hurt the United States. Says U.S. President Donald Trump threatens to impose 25% tariffs on imports from the European Union, claiming that the economic and political bloc was formed to screw the U.S. Says at the first cabinet meeting, Trump said that duties against Canada and Mexico would take effect on April 2nd, that his trade measures will include a 25% tariff on goods from the EU. Well, it's not happening quite like we expected, but things are changing. Now, I want to read a few things to you. It says right here, we'll be announcing it very soon, is what he told reporters. It'll be a 25% tariff, generally speaking, and that will be on cars and all other things. He says they're really taking advantage of us. We don't accept our cars. They don't accept essentially our farm products. They use all sorts of reasons why not, and we accept everything of them. Goes on to say the president has made it a priority to tackle what he sees as unfair trade relationships with a number of United States' closest neighbors and trading partners, citing the U.S.'s persistent trade deficits in which it imports more goods and services than it exports, as evidence of this. Okay. Now, we are going to see prices increase. Okay. I want to explain kind of how. Here's an article from CNBC. It says how Trump's tariffs on Mexico and Canada will sweep across the U.S. state by state. Well, I want to read a little bit. It says this will affect each state differently. For some states, such as Montana and New Mexico, nearly all of their import and export exposure is to a single targeted country. It says energy, such as the oil for Montana and Oklahoma, electronics for New Mexico, and auto parts such as EV batteries for Texas and California, where Tesla has a big presence, loom large in the trade battle, but the impact to local economies and consumer prices will range widely. We are going to see many changes. It's not just going to happen to food. It's not just going to happen to lumber. It's going to be food, lumber, energy, electronics. It's going to happen to things like everything from lumber. All building materials are going to go up. Okay, automotive parts going to become more expensive. Tires more expensive. Right, everything. Just the goods that we get from China, it's going to go up another 10%, which means we're going to see higher prices. As we see higher prices, what's going to happen is the consumer is going to be almost tapped out. Right now, we are hearing many reports that millions of people are struggling to just keep up with their daily bills, their lifestyle. Well, here's the problem. What we've heard in the past is that the American people, when they opt to stop spending on clothes, cars, computers, and electronics, and other things that are non-essential, they go for the essential goods. It's like food. It doesn't mean it has to be an avocado. Okay, it doesn't have to be Canadian bacon, right? It can be so many other things. But what you need to keep in mind is that when the American people go after just the essentials, it's going to hurt all other industries. Okay, real estate is going to be impacted. Okay, the automotive industry is going to be impacted, and this goes for dealerships and mechanics. Okay, it goes to people that do tint, people that sell tires and rims, things like that. Okay, tune-ups, everything. It's going to be impacted. Travel is going to be impacted as well. Now, what does this mean for you and I moving forward? Well, I've been saying this for quite some time. You need to be prepared. You need to make sure you have an emergency fund. And I say this because I talked to a friend of mine just recently, and he works at a car dealership. Now, he didn't think that he was really going to be impacted because of this, but he will be. Now, he's not a mechanic, okay? He orders parts. He orders parts. That's all he does. And he's a parts manager or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's his job. Now, what he was telling me just recently is his job could be impacted because, and again, he's not paid on commission, but he's also being paid based off how he contributes. And one of the things that he does is he orders parts. He orders parts for the cars that are coming in to get serviced. Well, if parts and labor are getting more expensive, what normally happens is people stop going into the mechanic. They now start to shop around. And if you are a mechanic at a dealership, you are probably the more expensive out of the private people like that do the mechanic out in the downtown area of a city, right? The people that are doing it as a private business, not associated with the dealership. That's where he's going to be impacted. And I explained this very clearly to him. There's a good chance that dealership sees less business in their service industry, in their service bay. if this happens, and we've seen it happen before, we saw this a great deal during the great financial crisis, okay, where dealerships were struggling to sell cars. Their service business was struggling to bring in new customers. Businesses were not bringing in the vehicles for routine maintenance like they were doing before. They were trying to pretty much stretch their vehicles as far as they could. So instead of going in every let's say 3 months for an oil change, some would go 4 months. So instead of doing an oil change 4 times a year, they do it 3 times a year. And if they have 5 vehicles, instead of doing 20 different oil changes, now they only did 15. So essentially that business, let's say it's $100 per oil change, that would have just saved them $500 for the year. Again, it's not a lot of money, but when you add in all these different savings, it does add up. So just keep in mind right now, Americans are panicking that yes, this tariff is going to go into effect this next week. So we're going to see what happens. All I can tell you right now is be prepared for more businesses to struggle and eventually lay people off. And as people get laid off, they'll stop paying their bills. And they stop paying their bills, we'll see additional foreclosures. We'll see defaults on cars, so repossessions will be up, and things are going to change. So again, let me just ask you one last thing. What do you feel in your life is going to be impacted because of this 25% tariff on goods coming in from Canada and Mexico? Let me know down in the comment section below, but that is what we have for you guys today. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.